Yes, I am back and I am back. Welcome to Let's Chat Live. I'm Miss Lissha. You know, I always have my right hand, and most of the time she is my left. But I don't have my left hand today, y'all. It's just me riding solo. We had a fabulous interview with our first guest, Misha Turner. If you have missed that interview, no worries. Just head over to our YouTube page or our Let's Chat page. You'll be able to watch the replay. You can always catch our replays exclusively on Ebony TV. I have my next fabulous guest coming to kick it with us today in the chat room, Pastor D.L. Pope. Welcome.
How are you? Good evening.
How are you?
All is well in Louisiana. How about where you are?
I'm in Georgia and all is well.
Awesome.
So for all of those who are not familiar with D.L. Pope, tell everybody just a little bit about your journey.
Well, I'm a native of Mendon, Louisiana. That's about 30 miles from Shreveport, close to about the top of the boot of Shreveport. And I began playing piano at the age of 4, began teaching choirs at the age of 10. Did that for 31 years until I began into the preaching of the gospel, and released a CD in 2005, accepted my calling to preach in 2007, and began pastoring in 2013. And been able to, during that journey, been able to write and produce for many artists, been able to back up for the late Reverend James Moore, Pastor Vera Coley, Dorothy Norwood, Shirley Caesar, John P. Key, Donald Lawrence, and a few others. But all in all, it's been a wonderful journey, and now here we are to this point.
I love it. Fun fact, Daryl Coley used to be my neighbor.
Oh my goodness, I'd have my ear to his wall every evening.
I want to say before his first album came out, before his music started coming out, he was my next door neighbor. And I remember I would go to his house and sit, and him and my mom would talk, and we would eat. Yes, he was my neighbor. And I lived in California.
Wow, that's awesome.
Now, you kind of answered my first question, because a lot of times you have musicians or gospel artists that they have their music come out and then they go to the pulpit. But you kind of went to the pulpit first. What was it like for you being a pastor and you're putting out an album at the same time?
Well, actually, it was the reverse. I was a minister of music and a musician for 31 years. I released my first project in 2005. And so my first CD project came out first. And I accepted my calling to preach 2 years afterward.
Oh, that was 2 years later. Okay.
Right, but I would kind of argue that point in what you're dealing with. Even when there are multi gifts and when there are multiple things that God has blessed you with, ultimately you have to get to the point to where you're the appetite of what God has called you to be and to do has to override the other things. So
Mhm.
I always want to be classified as, a preacher that just happened to know how to sing rather than a singer that can preach.
Okay. Absolutely, because normally it's funny because I look for some of my favorite gospel artists and that are now preachers, and it's like, well, when your next album coming out, you leaning over like, I understand that you moved, but we just need one more album, one more single from you, one more single. How is that process for you? Now that you have a album, you have albums out, you have music out, so you have a separate fan base.
That's correct. It actually 15 years. I blink and realize it's been 15 years since I have personally gone into the studio and done something for myself. But the assurance is that I kept my chops up, in worship. I kept my chops on the organ and everything else, and I kept my connections. So, when God gave the release, to do that,
Uh-huh.
I was happy with that.
Now, we always talk about a go moment here, and the go moment is when thought and execution come together. A lot of times, we're very mindful about how we speak to other people, how we pour into other people, but when it comes to ourselves, we tend to either give ourselves an excuse on why we can't do it right now, or we just don't take that move right away. So, what was the process like for you when you decided to say, I'm about to go into music?
Well, that's a good question that you asked. It's funny that you would mention that because the executive producer is my first cousin, which is Irvin E.P.
EP
Pope out of
Pope.
Austin. Yeah, and he shared something with me because I didn't have a desire to go back in the studio because I was thinking of everything I had to do with ministry. I thought with budget and things of that nature. And I said, man, we about to cough up a lot of money and a lot of things. And he shared a couple of things with me. He said, man, he said I developed my go get it from you at an early age, and consequently, just happened he's older than me, but he he shared with me this one thing. He said, "Look, man," he said, "if you see a car that's parked on the side of the road and you see that that person is stranded on the side of the road and he got the hazard lights on," he said, "nine times out of 10, people are just going to drive by and not pay attention to him." He said, "But watch the moment that that same person get out of the car and try to push the car himself." He said, "You will find somebody." He said, "If not two or three people that'll pull over and that will help him push."
That's right.
And in our lives, I gravitate that as a preaching moment to say, whatever God has placed in your spirit to do, and you know that it's a fire and it's an alert from God to do. He says, take that step of faith, take that step of perseverance, take that step of obedience, and He will assign just the right people to come and help you succeed.
Absolutely. And I always say, when God tells you to move your feet, you have to move your feet. We don't tend to move our feet when we're supposed to. And then we wonder why we still doing the same thing. It's still the same thing. We ain't even moved two steps because we didn't do what we were supposed to do in the first place. So because we didn't do that, now he's like, okay, well, next time I bring it back around, you're going to move your feet and you're going to do what I told you to do in the first place, being obedient to him. Now, how do you balance though? Because you're a husband, you're a father, you're a grandfather, you're a pastor. I mean, you got stuff everywhere. You're making music, you're a producer. How do you balance everything to have your piece for DL?
And in the midst of that, I still have a full time job. I work,
Woo!
yeah, I work 40 hours at a credit union, and so, but
Oh Lord.
but you know what, David in his word penned to the Lord and said, "Teach me to number my days, apply unto wisdom." And given that particular part, he spoke to God and said, "God, help me to live a balanced life. Help me to have time in work. Help me to have time at my job. Help me to have time at the house with my kids. Help me to enjoy myself." And so it is a difficult process, but it's not an impossible process. I wake up with God, asking Him to be the shepherd, to instill the rod and the staff daily, so that He can correct me and He can guide me, so that He can encourage me, so that I'll be able to be guilty of not only serving Him, but serving others, and ultimately serving as the King of my household.
I love it. Absolutely. Now, if you had to drop some jewels on somebody that was stepping into ministry or stepping into the music industry, what would some of those jewels be?
Well, the initial thing that I believe is important as an artist is to develop your signature. Develop your signature, because the worst thing you can do is to walk into the industry committing musical forgery. That's
Mm-hmm.
the worst thing that you could do, is to walk in and sound like somebody else, or to imitate something else and not have in mind or know that particular lane that God has placed you in. And once you've understood that particular part, then begin um, to magnetize and gravitate unto others that can pull you, to bring the best out of you. And many times you may have to go out before you can appreciate being brought back in. And I say that with the utmost honesty, because many people that are in your circle or in your atmosphere, in your hometown, may not necessarily appreciate the greatness that is in you. It's interesting how Jesus, how he spoke in reference to being an outsider in his own hometown. Is because people were comfortable with who he was, and they did not get a chance to
Mm-hmm.
actually appreciate the greatness that was in him. And in ministry, sometimes when people hang around us too long, when people hear us too long, we got to go out before we can really hit it to go in. So that's my initial thought into have some people that can pull the best out of you in the industry. And lastly, um, when you find your niche, and I may have a few arguments with this, but I'm a stickler on this. The songs that we place in the recording um, for sale, we have to know the difference between what will sell and what will sing. That's two
Mm.
different things. We have to know what will be good on Sunday, but what may not be marketable.
That's right.
And we have to know the season to what we can sing on Sunday that still can be marketable, because I believe that is possible, especially if we understand the temperature of worship and understand the temperature of ministry. We have to have a balance. We just cannot go into a project and be 100% traditional, 100% contemporary, 100% neo soul. We got to have something that will create what I want to call gumbo in the church.
All right now.
And the reason why I say that, gumbo is never predicated upon the crawfish, the shrimp, the andouille sausage, the rice, and things of that nature. It's the root, and the rudeness is God's word. And when you're able to do that, then I think you're on to something.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you said that because Devon Franklin, he has a book that talks about still being a Christian in mainstream and being able to be a movie executive and still be able to do the things that he has done and still stay in line. How important is that to have that balance with you and your spiritual side when you're stepping into um, non-Christian waters?
Well, that's a great question in asking, because um, in ministry in general, we don't even have to talk about music, but in ministry in general, one of the mistakes that we make in reaching the lost is not being able to be on a level that is relatable,
Mm-hmm.
a level that is transparent.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are in the studio preparing for a project, we don't want to limit ourselves to quote unquote the saints, but we want to have music that can attract the ears,
That's
but
right.
yet not offend the saints.
That's right.
So I believe that's an important part, to where if we can create attractive music that can pull them toward the presence of God, and yet not offend the potency um, of worship. I think we'll be on a good mainstream.
Absolutely. And now, when you sitting in the studio and you're producing, um, or you're in the pulpit, and because you're creative yourself, what do you do at that time when it comes to your mind and you like, my goodness, this is just not the right time for this, because now it's in your mind, you got a song in your head, you got something that you need to jot down. So, and but you in the midst of something else, you in the midst of preaching, you in the midst uh, of making music for somebody else. What is your process like when you have to say, okay, I got this thing that came in my spirit for myself? How do you grab onto that and still keep going to what you're doing?
It happens all the time. I've begun praise and worship, and I'll be in a specific zone singing one song, and the Lord will start whispering some stuff, and I'm sitting here like, really, right now? But you still have to focus on the main thing, which is being sensitive to the atmosphere and having the mainstream at hand, which is delivering the word. But what I do, I make a practice now. If I sense that coming, Don is gonna go back to our streaming service after everything is over. Back to their YouTube, and I'm gonna hit that thing about 10 times and go on my phone and record that, because I've lost many of songs. I've lost many songs, while mowing the yard or while doing some other things, and did not have my phone or anything next to me. And when I tried to go back in, it was gone. So you're right. Now, when I catch that now, I'm rushing back to try to rewind what happened.
I love it. I love it. And as a pastor, have you gotten any flack for deciding to step out into the music side? You know how some people feel like, okay, well, my pastor's just supposed to be in the pulpit. So, when I need you, I don't need you on tour. I need you on speed dial.
No, actually, the challenge is the opposite for me, because for so long I was known for being mostly a singer and being in people concerts. I had my own group, and we were on the road. And the moment I decided um, to be serious about my preaching and about pastoring, it took years just for people to accept that. And Louisiana is such a musical state, as you know. They love that. But yeah, the problem don't necessarily come from that part. And I don't do much touring, especially now for obvious reasons. But even before I didn't do much of that. I spent most of my time either in revivals, or I would be a clinician at workshops,
Okay.
to where I come in and teach choirs, and in the process kind of brand what I have out there.
Absolutely. And you brought up COVID slightly, but there's a business pivot, and I think with COVID that has forced us to do a life pivot where we're in a reset. We have to learn how to sit still and start listening and paying attention to some things. How have you had to reset your or pivot your steps in your music since COVID has started?
Well, it's actually been a blessing. It's actually been a blessing both in the music and as a church. I shared with the church that I believe wholeheartedly that this situation has allowed God to close the building so that He may resuscitate the church, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He's allowed the buildings to be closed so that the real people of God, so the disciples can actually be can become reset and become serious about the
Uh-huh.
work. But where there's extra time, where there's peaceful time, um, where there's peaceful time, um, there's time that God will speak not only through His Word but through worship. And
Absolutely.
I get plenty of moments in the music to be able to write and do other things now that this has happened.
Absolutely. Now, I've always had this question. I've always had this thing about praise and worship, and which one helps you to um, tap in to the spirit better. Now, for me, it's worship. And I know everybody's is different. For you, what's the best part of it for you? Is it the praise or the worship that allows you to tap into the spirit?
Well, being honest, praise, everybody can praise, but everybody cannot worship because praise is celebratory,
Mm-hmm.
whereas worship is intimate. And there is a twofold part of worship that deals with the horizontal as well as the vertical.
Mm-hmm.
There is a vertical part that happens only between the believer and God,
Mm-hmm.
which sets up for an accurate worship in horizontal ways beyond the people. And
Right.
oftentimes the horizontal don't take off like it need to because there's no vertical connection. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll just answer that. I'll answer that by saying, man, worship is everything to me because worship allows me to put on what I call a motorcycle helmet spirit. And when
Mm-hmm.
I place this motorcycle helmet spirit, especially the old school motorcycle helmet spirits, it serves as two functions. It protects my head, it protects my mind, it
Mm-hmm.
protects anything that's trying. But that most important part is what's in front of me. Because when I put that particular part on, I don't see nobody, and yet the chances of something getting my eyes are minimal. So when I'm in worship, I don't see you, I really don't hear you. It's all about me and God at that point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, when it comes to writing music, have you ever just had a roadblock in that thought process of getting that song out? In author world, they call that same thing, having like a roadblock where you can't really get the words, you can't really get the tune, you can't get it out, but you know it's there, you just don't know exactly what it is. What do you do in that time when you have that moment and it's like there's blockage, you can't really get it out, but um, it's there to pull out?
And so there is a process that I use when I have that blockage, because there are a couple of songs right now that are blocked. And so what I have to do, yes, Lord. And so when you got all this other stuff going on, yeah, it's partly cloudy with the chance of scattered showers going this head. But, but what I would suggest in moments like this is that we create the centerpiece of the song. What is the centerpiece? What is the focus point in what the writer is trying to write? And once that takes place, it's good to write what you remember, what you are thinking, and lock that down. It's good to get on the phone and put the date beside it or whatever and say, this is what I'm thinking right now, and begin to hum a couple of things while writing it down and leave it right there because it's at the appropriate time and at the appropriate season the Lord allowed to come back. And many songs are fueled from life circumstances. 90% of my songs that I've written, it's been when I've been at the lowest point of my life. I've been in court. I've been in an accident. I've had enemies surrounding me. A death of a loved one, and God will birth a song from that. God will birth a worship. So when that happens, just gather all of this and place it in a musical Ziploc storage bag and get ready for later.
Wait, you say that's the Ziploc bag? Now, what is your favorite song to perform?
That's really hard to
That's like asking
answer.
which child, which one?
I'm
Pick
serious.
one.
That's really hard to because I'm an atmospheric singer and I really don't premeditate songs. It's really what I'm feeling in the atmosphere. People would classify me as being a traditionalist, but I'm not. I one day I may come in there feeling having a James Moore in my spirit, and 10 seconds later I may want to go to Kim Burrell because that's just
Right,
what it
right.
right. But it's just all depending on the atmosphere. I really don't have quote unquote favorite songs. I'm a lover of hymns. I am a lover of hymns, and I like to take the essence and the tradition of hymns and what I call popularizing.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. What's popularized?
That means
Listen.
put Pope into the hymn.
name on it. You got to put your stamp on it.
That's right.
Now, what's the best part about working with your nephew?
Oh, my first cousin, Irvin.
Your cousin,
Oh
EP.
man, you know what? And it's unbelievable. This has been 5 to 7 years in the making because, of course, he's on the hip hop and rap, um, and R&B side as far as producing. But
Uh-huh.
but he's been a minister of music at my uncle's church for well over 33 years. And so
Wait a minute. Let me count. Hey, EP, you kind of old, sir. No, I'm just kidding.
he EP is 51. I told it. I told it.
Oh man, he told on you. He don't even look 51, so that's okay. That's okay. He don't look 51.
Absolutely. But it's been a joy because we vibe very well. And we stay in our own lane when it comes to work. And I tell people many majority of accidents happen because people do not respect each other's lane and they're not paying attention at the
Mm-hmm.
time of driving. And I respect his lane and I pay attention to my lane. So when it's
Mm-hmm.
time to go into the studio, he lays out the format of what we need. I lay out what's before me of what I've written or what we need, and it has worked very well.
Mm-hmm. And I asked that because when he does music all day long, 24 hours a day, but you can see him in the zone when he's in his creative mode, when he's dealing with music, even right down to when he's playing at church. You can see his process. He's always thinking about it, and I'm like, now I wonder what that process is when y'all come together. And it's like, well, I want to go to the left. I know we going to the right.
Now, EP is an absolute technician, and you know what? Here's another free point that I know you'll probably use somewhere. It's a dangerous person that can put on the jersey but hate the team. and
Uh oh,
and and I say that because oftentimes we can put on the jersey to look like a team player,
that's
but
right.
deep down we have other agendas.
That's
And when
right.
and when we're able to appreciate each other's worth and we're able to have a common goal to say, look, at the end of the day, we all just want to win. You know,
Uh,
I think that's the part, and I can use a southern term. The problem in us as church is that too many people want to lead. First of all, without having a plan, but then second of all, many of us want to lead without following first, and knowing that the road knowledge and the wisdom that my first cousin had, it would just be crazy for me to go in there, think I know anything, and tell him how to run. Oh no, no, no. So we get along well, and I know he's listening right now. So shouts out to your EP man.
yes,
Love you for your work,
he's already told me to tell you to sing live. Look at your face.
man. This
He already in it. He's like, listen.
I'm blocking him on Facebook. I mean,
But I'm glad that you mentioned that because I actually call that backhanded support. And backhanded support are those that have to either support you in private because they've spoken on you publicly in the wrong way, or they really are not believing in what you're doing, but they're really trying just to appease you when they see you. But they're really like, okay, this is just something he is gonna go through, or she's just gonna go through it, and then it's gonna be over, and they're gonna do something else. But that's backhanded support. That's somebody that really, really does not support you. Um,
yeah,
and you've been married for so long. How important is that to have that partner, that spouse next to you that is able to give you that authentic support when you need it?
marriage is absolutely essential. I've been blessed to be married for 17 years now. I've been knowing my wife for 20, and she's much more than a wife. She's an intercessor. She's an encourager. Um, and there's nothing that I feel that we cannot accomplish with the hand and the help of God. And just having a word saying you can do it. not even having to have the knowledge of what you're trying to do, just having that assurance or that person beside you to be a team player makes all the difference in the world. I mean, her encouragement sometimes make me feel that I can press 350 pounds when I know doggone well I ain't getting past two. but, but it makes me feel that way. So it's essential.
I love it. I love it. So you sent us your song, and I did try to do it a creative way because I want everybody to be able to listen to it. So I want you to introduce the song "All in Control," and what was the concept behind this song?
Well, the concept behind the song All in Control basically reminds all of us that when things seem to be out of control, when we seem to be out of position, when we are in situations to where we honestly cannot see our way, we cannot touch the solution, or we cannot even think what's going on. God reminds us in his omniscience, in his omnipotence, in his omnipresence, he says that I'm still here and I'm still in my position, although it may seem as I'm not. He says that I'm in position and I have everything under control because I've created the earth. I'm in charge of the elements and I'm ultimately in control of the eternal. So at the end of the day, he says, I have this. You keep your part and be obedient. You keep your part, be submissive, watch me work things out. And so that's my spiel. And I'm praying to be an encouragement even through what we're going through with the pandemic, dealing with government, dealing with bad spouses and bad co-workers and all that stuff. The Lord reminds us, I created the beginning before the beginning began. I know you and I created everything else. And so I have it in control.
All right. Okay. So we're going to. All right. You ready? Let's go.
In all of our lives, our spiritual fuel tank will reach a low point, and storms become so severe to where we begin to ask God the question, are you really here? And I'm sure that's what was going on with the experienced fisherman as Jesus was in the hinder part of the ship. Once Jesus arose from his sleep, he spoke one time and he handled two situations. He calmed the storms and he calmed those who were scared. And I just want to remind you, my brother and sister, God still speaks. Regardless of how severe our storms may be, God has it all in control. We may not understand it. We may not be able to conjure it up in our minds. But please know, he has it all in control. He has it all in control. God has it all in control. That thing that has you down. He has it all in control. He has it all in control. He knows what's best for your soul. God knows, and he has it all in control. Here's another one. He's bringing you out. He's bringing you out. See, I discovered even in the darkest part of your life, when you think about deliverance, God will either take you out of the storm or he'll take the storm out of you. Makes no difference which way God does it. You ought to still lift your hands and say, he's bringing me out. He's bringing you out. Yes. Bringing you out without a doubt. God knows. Yes, he knows. He sees. He hears. He understands. God knows. Oh, God knows. And he has it all in control. He's making a way. Lord have mercy. Somebody ought to lift their hands right now and say, he's making a way in my darkest hours, in my confused state. He's making a way. Ooh, he's making a way. He's making a way. Making a way out of no way. Come on, high five your own self right now and say, God knows all of my stressful moments, all of my depressional moments. God knows my families, my enemies. God knows. And he has it all in control. I'm a witness that he knows. I'm a witness that God knows. And he has it all in control. Ways, remember. God. Jesus, Jesus, always remember Jesus, Jesus.
I just realized that whole song was playing and couldn't nobody hear it. Dang it!
Really?
Did you hear it? You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to listen on my phone to make sure that it was coming through, and I couldn't hear nothing on my phone. I was like, don't tell me that I played that whole thing and it didn't even do what I wanted it to do the way I wanted it to do it.
All right.
Now I could see. Okay, EP, thank you, E. I could see where the people call you a traditionalist, because that is old school church. Let's get up and move your feet tight. And when you were making this recording and you were setting the atmosphere to be able to do that, what was that moment like for you?
Well, we recorded that at the church where I pastor, and the only thing I wanted to hear was a Hammond B3 organ and microphone, and all we did was just, you know, took adequate amount of time for prayer and the assurance that God was guiding me through the song.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much it for me. When I'm prepared to record any song, I want to make sure that my vocals are pretty much relaxed enough to sing, and my heart is receptive enough to minister. Because oftentimes, you can your voice can be right and your heart can be wrong. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah.
Now, what are some of the things you do to be able to set the atmosphere, to be able to fire up your inspiration when it's time for you to create or make music?
Well, my inspiration point blank is prayer. I don't know about anybody else, but that's my only inspiration in doing that. Everything else is, from a technical standpoint of just knowing the roadmap from A to B,
Hmm.
as far as from the verse, the bridge, chorus, vamp, things of that nature. But the majority, 90%, is prayer, and and asking for God's guidance. That's point blank it.
Absolutely, I love it. Now, here on Let's Chat, we like to do something a little fun with our guests. We made E sing last when he was on, so that's how I know he can hold a note or two, maybe three. but
Don't let them sleep on you.
but for you, I'm gonna say you have an opportunity to do a compilation album. You can have anybody on that album, dead or alive. Who would you have on the album and why?
Dead or alive, I really I really have to be partial and say Pastor Derek Coley. I really have to say that.
Okay.
I've had the privilege of being on the road a little bit, and being behind the late James Moore, but the reason why I say Pastor Derek Coley is because his vocal skills, Jesus Christ, it not only energizes you, but it pushes you to do more than the norm. And
Hmm.
I've witnessed that in many recordings that he used to sing with others, that he just pulled out the best of other artists. And so
Hmm.
that's my choice, because I would enjoy it, to be able to have that moment to just go back and forth with him.
Absolutely, I love it. It's funny because my uncle, he does music. Well, he's retired now, but I remember him playing on Christmas. We would go to my grandparents' house, and he used to sing "A House Is Not a Home." And so when I actually heard it on the radio, I was like, "Ma, that man just stole Uncle Dale's song." And she was like, "What man?" I said, "The man on the radio." I actually thought that that was his song. And so when his gospel album came out, he had this song on it that I absolutely love. How does your family um, rally around you when it's time for you to put out music?
Well, our family is very, very close knit and supportive. We have, believe it or not, a 5 generation family of singers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have singers all the way. We have songs that we sing right now from a traditional standpoint that was passed on from our great grandparents that we sing right now.
Oh, wow.
And so we're very supportive, and even right now, I mean, we communicate very closely with one another, but that's not a problem at all. I mean, I have a wonderful family that prays, that supports, and couldn't ask for anything else.
I love it. Now, what's next? What's next for Pastor Don Pope? Uh, with your music, with your ministry, what's your vision? Let us tap into it a little bit.
Well, we are preparing for the full album that is scheduled prayerfully to release by the end of this year.
Okay.
It has a mixture of traditional, contemporary, a couple of neo souls,
Ooh.
definitely praise. Oh, yes, Lord.
Oh, look at you trying to
Yes,
throw
Lord.
some love
I,
receipts out in there.
I told you can't classify me in that box just on that one song. we have a mixture of songs that we're preparing for, and I'm excited about it. As far as where the ministry is concerned, we're just trusting God for the next stage and how He's getting ready to utilize our church and reaching the lost as we reach each other. So that's pretty much in a nutshell of what you can expect from the project and from the church in general. Right now, as far as the church, we are virtual, obviously, but we're also reachable within the community, and so that's what you can expect.
I love it. However, she worked today, so she wasn't able to come and be able to experience you, because people don't buy your music; they buy the experience they receive when they come in contact with you. And so we so appreciate you taking that time out to share your time, your space, and your energy with us. We want you to shout out all of your social media where everyone can get your album. I also want to thank you for being the guinea pig today, because we normally don't. When we do our live, I don't play music on the live. I normally just play it on the radio because I'm never quite sure how it works. And so today someone was like, just go ahead on and put this like this. And that literally was my mind. Just put this like this and play it. And that's what I did. So I'm glad. I thank you for being patient.
That's no problem. I understand.
All right. Shout out all of your social media when everybody can get your album.
All right. Well, let me first of all thank everyone that put their hands into this, into the plow of what has transpired. I want to thank EP, the executive producer. I want to thank Minister Carlos Kirkendall that played he was the organist. Brent Lattin did the actual live recording part of the solo. Tremarcus Harris did the photo, and Selma Young did the graphics and the design. I want to thank everyone for helping as far as being a team. With the solo, we extend an opportunity for those to download and purchase the single. You can purchase that by iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, pretty much all the major digital outlets you can receive if you type Pastor Don Hope.
I love it. Well, we so appreciate you coming to kick it with us today. And you are welcome back anytime. So when that album come out now, listen, Pastor, listen. Don't be acting like you don't know who we are now.
Oh
When we
no,
like the album out now, we're gonna be like, can you come in? And you be like, well, I don't know. Let me see what I got going on. No, I'm just kidding.
oh
But you
no,
gotta come in. You gotta come in when the album come out.
we definitely gonna reach out and we pray to have another conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Let's chat. And
Thank you
I'll
so
talk
much
to you
for having
soon.
me.
You have a great day.
All right.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was the first time I do need a bigger screen, but this screen is so big behind me and I'm short, and so it's hard for me to handle sometimes. So I don't want to get a bigger screen that fills up the space, but I need one. I'll be trying to cover up the space. But I thank y'all for kicking it with Lissha on today. We will see you guys on Monday. We have another fabulous spotlight show on Monday on Let's Chat. So make sure y'all tune into the radio. And then next week on live, it's going down, y'all. It's going down next week on live. We have Shakir Rashawn is going to be in the building, y'all, next Thursday. Yes. So we appreciate you guys, and we will see you guys next week. Good night.